So hey you guys, and welcome back to my channel for another video. Today we are talking about the books that I read in September and that I'm going to read in October. So to start off with, these are the books that I read in September. There's also one other one that I read on my Kindle, but that's not really included in this stack. The first book I read in September was Afterwards by Jennifer Matthews. This book follows the story of two teenagers after a very traumatic event. One of them was kidnapped and the other one, her younger brother, was kidnapped, and she believes that it's her fault. So because of that, the two are brought together to sort of figure out what happened to her younger brother, to help him through his struggles, and they just sort of become friends, and they end up creating a really interesting relationship. I think I gave this one a 3 out of 4 stars. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It was a very interesting book to read, and I really liked it. The next book that I read was Roar by Cora Cormack, and this one is going to have a full review on my blog and here on YouTube pretty soon, so watch out for that. I believe that I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars just because I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to dive into this world again when the next Stormhearts book comes out in May of 2018. So after those, I started the program series. This is a series of 5 books, and I know that they will all have a wrap-up book review type of video on my channel. So first I read the program. This is the first book in the series, and it follows a girl named Sloane as she has to deal with being in the middle of an epidemic where people are committing suicide, teenagers are committing suicide left and right, and has okayed a program where if a student is showing signs of depression or mental illness, they're forcefully taken into this program with their parents' permission, and they are kind of put through treatment for their mental illness. I thought that it was a really interesting book, and I decided to read the entire series because of it. The next book that I read was The Treatment. This follows Sloane and James right after they get out of the program and sort of what they do to combat the loss of their memories. This will also have a book review up on my channel, so watch out for that in October. The last book that I read in September was The Remedy, which is the 3rd book in the program series. This actually follows a new cast of characters. The main character's name in this one is Quinn, and she is considered to be a closer. This is sort of a prequel to the program and The Treatment. This is when the epidemic is just starting. It's barely even known yet. It's at the very, very beginning stages. At the very beginning stages, there are people called closers that when someone very young passes away, they come in and sort of close out their life. They come in, they let the family say whatever they needed to say, they look exactly like they make themselves look as close to the person as possible, they live in their lives for a little bit, and then they exit once the family has sort of grieved and has said whatever they need to say. I honestly thought that this was a good book. I didn't think that it kind of deserved to be part of the program series. I feel like it wasn't necessary in the series to have this, but it was a really good book on its own, and this will have a book talk in November. So then the book that I'm reading right now that's going to take me from September to October is The Epidemic, which follows Quinn again after some very interesting events. I don't really want to spoil this just because I am in the middle of reading it, but there will be a book talk about this one in November too, so definitely watch out for that. So the other book that I read in September was F Anxiety. This is a self-help book that I decided to read as an idea of starting to cope with and sort of combat or battle my anxiety. If you don't know, I do have several mental illnesses. I have 2 mental illnesses and 1 mental learning disorder type thing. I'm not going to go into them now, but this self-help book was really interesting to read. It wasn't anything new, and I'm not going to do a book talk on it. I tried, but I just decided not to. It's a really interesting book for entertainment value and very basic information. I feel like it is absolutely wonderful. The entire time I felt like I was talking to one of my best friends about anxiety and getting their opinion on what I was supposed to be doing. So it was really interesting to read. It was a good book. It was a good book. I'm not going to say that it is the perfect self-help book. Honestly, it wasn't for me. I like going through and dealing with pages and worksheets and having to track things and whatnot. So the fact that it didn't have that, it wasn't my ideal self-help book, but it was such a great read. And if you have anxiety, or they also have a version for depression, definitely read those. So on to what I will be reading in October. As I just stated, I will be reading The Epidemic at the very beginning of October just to finish that off and continue in the series. The last book that I plan on reading in October is The Adjustment. This is the last book in the program series, and it takes place once the program has been completely eradicated. It no longer exists and people are trying to cope with it and figure out what to do. It sounds like a good book. I don't know much about it. So the other two books that I really want to read are F Depression, which is by the same author as F Anxiety. I'm not reading it to kind of cope with depression at this point. I'm just reading it for basically entertainment value, because I also am going to continue reading Anxious and in Love. This is kind of a book that is also a self-help book, but it takes into perspective a relationship and trying to figure out how to cope for both parties. I feel like it is a really good book. It's definitely meant towards married couples. I can 100% say that because there are many exercises in it where it mentions your kids and stuff. As a young adult, I don't have kids and I'm not married, but I feel like with me and my boyfriend, this is a very interesting book to read because it does let you take a step back and see how your anxiety is affecting those in your life and how to kind of help them cope with it, because that's one talk and thing that my boyfriend and I have talked about a lot, and it's something that we are very interested in learning more about in order to help our relationship and find a way to help my anxiety. The other book that I really want to read in October is called Thriving with Social Anxiety: Daily Strategies for Overcoming Anxiety. The last book that I'm going to read in October, which is the only really spooky story that I really want to read, is called Scythe. I ordered it yesterday, so I can't wait for it to come in. Luckily, since I have to finish the Epidemic and the Adjustment, I will have time before that one comes in to finish those, and then that's the book that I really want to read this October because it's my one Halloween read that I'm super excited for. I'm not putting a ton of books on my October TBR just because I do have Preptober for NaNoWriMo coming up, so that is also going to be a huge thread through October, as well as finding a job and possibly moving. So I'm not putting a ton of books on my TBR just because I don't want to set myself up for disappointment if I can't get to all of them. So if you like these kind of videos, please give it a thumbs up so I know to keep making them every month. If you have read any of these books, comment it down below. Otherwise, comment down below what book you really want to read in October. And then hit subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!